All right, cool. That's good. I'm good.
All you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Super Joe Pardo, and he is, I don't know where I'm supposed to be pointing because I don't know where we are in the relationship. He's Tim Gillette. And
hey, I know where I am at in this relationship. I'm just saying.
I don't know, like if I'm off to the left, are we like split screen? I don't know how it's recording. It's whatever.
Yeah.
We are here to help you launch your virtual conference. I'm super excited, and I know Tim. Are you excited? Are you pumped?
Hey man, I'm pumped to help you guys. Come up with a great plan, run your virtual events, and be profitable at doing them, man. That's the big thing. I want these people to learn.
Yes, we want to make the monies, right?
Yes.
That's what we're here to do, and to bring people together, and to bring sponsors, money too, right? It's got to be win-win-win, win-win-win-win-win, cha-ching, right? That's what we're everybody. It makes the world go around when everybody wins. So what I want to talk about, what I'm going to talk about here is how I put together my media kit and have reiterated over it and over and over and over for years and years now, and have been able to make money with it because people want to say yes. But the fact of the matter is, it always comes back to you, right? It starts with you and what the mission is, what people, what dream you're selling people. Like that's where it starts, right? The media kit just helps you have here's the menu, right? Like it's like going to McDonald's and being like, well, what, there's no menu, so you just order, whatever, and hopefully what you're ordering is there. But we're going to talk about the media kit and how to set up your initial pricing, and how to tweak that pricing going forward, what kind of packages you should be looking to put together, what you can include those virtual packages, and then what you can do after the fact once you have those sponsors. And Tim's going to go, you're going to go over promoting the events, right? And promoting it to sponsors.
So yeah, Joe, basically I'm going to cover, I got 3 areas that I want to cover tonight. And that is, I want to touch a little bit on finding speakers, promotion. All right. And some feedback on what the schedule's got to be. And, Joe, my experience in this, I know you've done more virtual events than I have. But I've done more live events than you. But I found it interesting that we had 2 different angles that we came out, but we went with almost the same model. And I think that tonight, as we share this with you guys, we're coming from 2 different perspectives, but we're coming both at a way that both of us have been profitable at doing these virtual events. And literally, we were both thrown into them less than 30 days ago. It's like, guess what? You got to go. Here you go. Boom, go.
Well, that's how, that's what entrepreneurs, we're professional problem solvers, right? And that's what, you hopefully are watching this, is you have that go-getter attitude. You want to open up the cash register, bring in some cash, bring people together, make all that happen so you can do your happy dance with all the time that you're going to invest in doing this. Because out of the gate, there is a lot of time investment, especially if you want to make more money. It's really up to you. Because look, I've hosted, and I've hit my mic so many times, it's not even funny. I've hosted events where I've made no money. I've hosted events where I've broken even. And when it comes to virtual events, I've hosted ones where I've made a good chunk of cash versus ones where I made very little cash. And the reason why is because I didn't invest a bunch of time in that specific event, promoting it to sponsors, putting myself in front of them and getting them to say yes. So it's really up to you as to how much time you can and are willing to put into it. So I'm going to start with the media kit, and let me share my screen here.
Go ahead.
So with the media kit, I'm always, as a creator, I'm always looking to tell the story. What is the story that I want to tell? I want people to feel involved, and I want people to feel committed to what I'm bringing to them. So a story is the best way to do that. Get them emotionally and connected to what you're doing so they can see the vision. Because if you have a hard time telling people what the vision is, they're gonna have a real hard time being like, hey, let me break out my checkbook and write that check and do like it's gonna be a real uphill battle for you to make it happen if that's the case. So you want to make sure the person's feeling connected and has the story. So what I did, is make sure I have my logos here, telling them what kit is on the first page. So it's like a cover page. And then it goes right into the story, right? Explaining what is it that they're getting themselves into? What are we trying to accomplish with this event, or this event? In this case, it's now a virtual series. So what are they getting into? Giving them some background, giving them some background about yourself, a little taste of it. I include an about a page in it about myself because I'm so connected to, just like Tim is connected to the event, that we're one in the same, right? It's not a separated brand. Like if I went away, I don't know that Indie PodCon would be the same unless you had a lot of money and people to plug in to take up the slack. Like it's not a lot of people would not be able to do it as a one-man band or one-woman band, whatever you want to call it. But point being is you're trying to tell a story and paint a picture here for people. Now, how I do that is we have a pic. We start with a picture, right? People's faces are very important. Go to pretty much any website you go to, any media kit you look at, any brochure you look at, you're gonna see people's faces because they want you to see they want you to see yourself in that brochure or in that media kit, so you can make that connection. So not only am I putting the logo on the bottom, so it's getting constant brand recognition within the media kit. You're telling the story, you're showing the pictures. Hopefully you have some kind of event that you've already hosted. But if you haven't had an event that you've already hosted, pull a picture from somewhere. Don't pull a stock photo, please. God, don't do that. But even if you had to make, and I don't want to be dishonest, but like I've been a part of an event before that was a fake event just for the photo shoot to promote the real event. Like it's a thing that you can do. It's a lot of work to get people, but you only need a couple of people. You get 3 or 4 people together. You do the points and the and things, and you make them real tight photos. You get get a photographer, or at least somebody with a DSLR camera, or even just knows how to use an iPhone really well with some lighting, and you can make that happen. You can fake that event photo without getting a stock photo that like somebody could just like pop into a search and find. So you got to figure out like what kind of numbers are you looking at, right? So when we talk about numbers, I'll get that. Well, I have that a little bit further down, but basically this is the overview page of what what the event is looking like, shaping up to be. I include history in mine because I want people to see that this isn't some kind of fly by night thing. So we start, mine, you show pictures like that picture's from 2015 in March of 2015, one of our meetups in New York City. Then we have photos from our first event, our first big, conference in 2015, 2016, 17, 18. So just random photos, not random photos, but photos that show the diversity of the event, right? Look, a lot of those events had 75 to 110 people at them, right? But you pick and choose the right photos that were taken, and it shows that like, hey, this is what we do. I used to have these broken down in separate separate pages, but then I kind of it was getting a little long, so wanted to shrink it up a bit. So I kind of combined all of them into those in like that era. And then for 2019 we moved up to a bigger hotel, and it was awesome. It was a really cool awesome event. Anyway, I wanted to, I leave that page. Now, after this year, I will probably move that page up into this page and kind of take some of the photos and replace them and stuff and kind of suck it all together. But I felt like it makes sense to like show people like, hey, we upgraded. We went from here to Atlantic City, went to this big hotel and casino. It was awesome. Then I move into the about, right? And here's where I'm telling people more about myself and explaining like my background as the authority to put these events together. Why are you the right person at the right time to be doing this? Why should they trust you in the industry or niche and giving you money and making, and being trustworthy, right? In my case, it's, I have all these experience going back to like being 6 years old, running around grabbing pens off of tables at my family's events, leading up to me hosting LAN parties, DJing and raves and putting raves together, and volunteering at other conventions, and eventually putting together Indie PodCon. So then I talk about the reach, right? So with the reach, this is a really, really important page, because not only have you told the story, right? You're getting people drawn in, so they're feeling that connection if they've never heard about your event before. But now you want to pick, you don't want to lie, but you want to pick and choose the numbers that make sense. And I had to learn this myself, right? Because I used to just be like, oh, here's how many visitors we have to the website. Here's how many Facebook members we have. Here's how many, email audience we have, and all that stuff. And it can be good, but it also has to be in the thought process of, in theory, you should be growing, your email list, growing the amount of people getting to the website. How many people are getting into the Facebook group? How many people are attending the events going forward, or you expect to be attending the events based on your current email list and all that. So the idea there is to pick and choose the numbers. What sounds like a lot of numbers to you isn't necessarily a lot of numbers to the person reading it. So you might be like, hey, we have 3,000 people on our list. Well, you're reaching out to a company that like has, 4 million people on their list. And like, this is nothing, right? Like it means nothing to them to say 3,000 people. Now, unless it's a really niche thing where they're like, hey, we really want to make sure that we're getting all of the dentists in the Northeast region, like, because that's a specific target market that we're trying to pinpoint. Like, the odds are, everything align, all the stars aligning, or start to get like less, right? The odds of it lining up. So what I do is I take my numbers and be like, okay, so here's some averages of what we're hitting. Here's the percentage of the people that of a metric that matters, right? In my situation with Indie PodCon, it's how many new podcasters, people who are new to podcasting, that need those services, right? Because they're specifically, these sponsors want to see new people, because that's how they're going to get them on their hosting platform, right? Yeah, they're going to get people that want to switch or had an issue and are ready to jump platforms, but by and large, like, that you get them when they're new, right? When they're just getting into podcasting. So it's a big metric for people who have services that are foundational. In my case, it's podcast hosting. So like, you get them when they just start. You look at like, okay, we're getting videos, or these virtual conferences are getting at least 1,000 plus views on average. Like, that's pretty good, even for Facebook metrics, where like people get millions of views for things like, but this is a super niche thing. So 1,000 views is pretty darn good. And that factors in when you start thinking like, what can I charge for this later on? The Facebook group, right? I don't mention how many members are necessarily in the group, but I mention up to 550 active members per day, because if you go into the insights, like, you can see that, right? So that's the max number. So I'm not lying. I'm just literally that, like, over the last 6 months or whatever, like it fluctuates day in and day out, but over time it has gone up, and the up to is the up. That's what it is, right? But the increase, right? We're increased 117% in membership since January 2020 in just 6 months. So like, that's pretty awesome. That's a great stat versus like, hey, we have 1,500, but like literally in like 2 weeks from now, we're going to have over 1,600, and then we're going to have over 1,700, and then 1,800, and then 1,900, and then 2,000. And so you want to look like, just put those numbers together that make sense, rather than like just the bare metrics. Email list, right? What's your open rate? What's your click-through rate? How's the list growing? What's the growth of that, right? Like, my email list for Indie PodCon is over 1,500, but not all those people that are on that are in the Facebook group, and not all in the Facebook group are on the email list. So like, there is some crossover, but not all of it's crossover. So you have to, you pick and choose what you're going to put in there and make it, look like you got it going on, right? Like, something's popping off here. Now, when you get down to packages, so the way I've structured these packages are very inexpensive, especially for the amount of traffic that's going to the website, the amount of people that are seeing the logos and interacting with them. I wanted to make it as cheap as I wanted to make it as like, hey, when I send this out to people, I want them to say yes. And there's a very solid reason for that. Right now, with the pandemic, especially starting back in March, there was a lot of uncertainty, and people were like, "Oh, we're not sponsoring things right now," or like, "I'll get back to you." Some people were like, "Hey, we're on board, let's do it." But the ones that were on board, let's do it, were really aligned with the conference, right? With the membership or the attendees of the conference. The ones that were kind of like on the fringe a little bit of who they're trying to, the attendees, whether or not the attendees would be interested in them, they were less likely. But there was some that said yes because of the pricing, right? So I wanted a price where it's like, hey, I don't have to think about it. It's, originally it was $75. I've since raised the price because what I found is some of these companies now are starting to break loose because they have these budgets they need to spend, and as the world is not really getting back to what they thought they were, they still have a budget to spend, in their company, so they need to spend it somewhere. So it's like, okay. Plus, I've increased, the value of what these events have done. It has increased over time because now I have numbers to show, like, hey, these are averaging 1,000+ views, right? On Facebook alone. That doesn't include YouTube and the amount of minutes that's getting poured into it, and the fact that people are watching literally through the whole 8 hours of these events that I'm hosting, which is absolutely incredible. And I'm like super grateful that people take the time to do it. But I'm also not surprised because the interaction and the community that's built around it. So while I'm appreciative, I'm not overly surprised. Now, with that said, like, I don't know that it's going to, that gravy boat is going to continue forever, where I could get away with doing it every two, like we've been doing an event every 2 weeks since March 29th. So with that said, I think we will still continue to do one probably every 2 or 4 weeks going forward. It's just a matter of, like, are we going to continue to get that attendance? And I kind of think we will, even though things are like kind of opening up and people are like, it's getting nice out and all that. There's still people that want to learn. They're hungry to learn, and they'd rather put it on their phone and like do things while they're watching, while they're listening. So looking at how I structured the packages, you got support, so that people are just supporting it. So they get a logo on the website. You can do, and I get 1 mention in the newsletter. Usually they're getting 2 to 3 mentions in the newsletter, but that's one of the extra things that I'm doing for them. So then you have the live, which also includes them getting mentioned through the event, right? Which I think originally it was $75 and $150, and now it's $200 to get mentioned through the event. And part of that is, making sure that their banners scrolled throughout the event, and that I'm mentioning their business. Now, like, if you step up to $350, which originally was $300. You not only do you get all the mentions, but you also get your sponsorship reads. I read their sponsorship read through 3 times throughout the event, at least like around 30 seconds or so, and they get to give away something, right? They're going to get to give away a product or a service during the event, which is helpful, right? Because it buys them more time over the course of your event. And then the presidential $700, that was originally $600. As you're saying, there's a method to the madness, right? It was $75, $150, $300, and $600. So the idea is I doubled it up. And I've had people take the presidential. I've had a couple of companies take that presidential spot where we're it's independent podcast virtual conference brought to you by their company. So it creates a little more work on my end to have to go through and add all that and make sure every time I'm saying it, I'm adding their names to it. But it's swinging for the fences. This is intentionally designed so that there's 4 things. So most people have gone for the second one, the second, like the live package, right? And a handful of gone up to the for the giveaway, and then only like three or 4 of them have gone for the presidential. So, but the goal is the presidential. The 4th one is always swing for the fences, right? You're setting it up so that people are, it's like if somebody takes it, it's like it's a better payday than you're going to get with the other ones, right? And really the opportunity there is for people to take that second one, maybe the third one, if they're really interested in it. But I'll tell you, after doing these 6 events so far, I actually feel like I'm way undervaluing what they're getting for the price. But I also recognize that we're still in COVID mode, and companies are still trying to figure out things, even though budgets are starting to break loose because of the fact that they have to spend them before the end of the year, and it doesn't look like we're going to have live events. So that's potentially tens of thousands of dollars that it could go unused if they don't spend them in one way or another. So it's starting to shape up like you might have an opportunity to get in front of and get more dollars out of those sponsors, especially if you have like a niche thing. And then the final page I have in my media kit is let's make some magic, right? This is kind of like an advertisement to say, hey, if you got an idea and you got a checkbook and you want to write, a big fat check, we can come up with some pretty cool ideas that aren't listed in those things, but those require more money. So it doesn't matter if it's in my virtual events or in my in-person events. I added the let's make some magic. I think it was last year. Now, truth be told, while no one has taken me up on it yet, I stick by the idea that eventually somebody will, because there's going to be a company that's like, hey, I got this budget and I need to get rid of it. Like, I need to make this money disappear somewhere, some way, somehow. So, and that's, it lets people know like, hey, we're open to doing and creating something that that hasn't been seen before. And not just like sticking inside of the 4 walls. Now, with my live events, in-person events, for this year, I've created, I think I have like 3 pages of not only the sponsorship packages, but I have a la carte options as well. So real quick, just to give you an idea, in case you decide to go down that route, let me pull up my, oh, it didn't open up. I think it, oh, you know what? I think it's kit 6. Okay, here we go. So I have like the a la carte. So like with our upcoming live in person, you can sponsor porta potties. You can sponsor food, right? And then there's like sponsor a workshop or sponsor, like all these things can be a la carte. Or if like, say you want to do like mic flags, right? Like, you put like the little square on your flag, on your mics, you can put their logo there, right? That could be another sponsorship, like sponsorship on t-shirts. Like there's so many things you could do and add that as an a la carte. So it's like, okay, so you want to take this pack, the executive package, plus you want to sponsor the porta potties and sponsor food. Like, awesome. Now you just took that package that was $1,500 and you just added an extra $600 to it. So $1,500. So now you're at what, $2,100. Sponsor live streams, sponsor, like there's so many ways that you can add to it. Now, I would just caution not to get too deep in the woods as far as, let me see if I have kit 7 available here. Because no, I don't have that available. But there's just, if you at least there are other options for you. So you're not trying to bundle everything into the packages. Packages are nice and easy. It's why you go to the dollar menu or the choice menu. But having the a la carte options is nice because it's netted me extra money, because they were like, oh, I love that idea. I'll send you an extra $300 or $400. Like, every dollar adds up, right? And that's the mentality that you got to have. And as long as you're not costing you more money, right? By like, oh, like we're, it's $500 and we'll put you on these banners. Well, the banners, depending on how big they are and how entailed it can be, it could end up costing you more money than it's actually worth if you only end up selling 1 or 2 sponsorships in that a la carte. So just be leery of or weary or aware of how much these things cost when you're doing them. One of the great things about being a virtual is these don't cost me anything, right? It's not costing me anything to add their logo to a newsletter. It's not costing me anything to put their name on a website, because I know how to build a website. I'm not paying a web developer to add, their logo to my website. It doesn't cost me anything to read off their name or their sponsorships. It doesn't cost me anything to add, brought to you by. Like, it literally is costing me nothing to do these. So the profit margin is way, 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 way up there. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. If you start getting like, oh, we're going to send out swag, like, you could totally do that, right? You could totally be like, hey, we're going to create t-shirts for our virtual event and send them out via mail, or, some kind of gift bag or gift box or something. Like, that's awesome. Just keep it in mind that, like, if you don't get enough sponsors for it and you promise you're going to do it, you got to do it. And it's going to suck. My first event I ever, first MapCon I did event, I lost $3,000 on it, but we had an incredible time and laid the foundation with people and relationships that have lasted me now and probably will continue to last me for years and years, if not decades to come. So was it worth $3,000? Yeah, it was. It absolutely was. And the second year, I made that $3,000 back. Third year, made like $6,000, $7,000. Fourth year, made $8,000, $9,000. Fifth year, I broke even. I spent $10,000. I made $10,000. Sucked, but that's the price of going to a big fancy hotel that I didn't do. I didn't do my due diligence to make sure that I was bringing enough money in, enough attendance to warrant and cover those bills. We covered it, but amazing experience, but just be cautious. I caution you. So, and then with doing this one in the backyard, my expenses are going to be pretty low. As long as we sell enough sponsors and live stream tickets and sell out the 50 tickets that we have, it'll definitely be a worthwhile investment. So, Tim, that's what I got. Do you have any questions for me? Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, a couple of things that I wanted to put into that, Joe, is, I've built my sponsorship, or you've got the sponsorship down on the virtual. I built mine off of doing my live events. And one of the things my mentor taught me many years ago when I started this was your sponsorships were designed to cover your costs. So basically, when I went into my live event, going in, everything was paid for. So, you know what I mean? We had, at one point I had pen sponsors and stuff like that. But your presidential one, I thought was very interesting because I kind of modeled mine, and we have I forget what mine's called. We call it our platinum. I don't know how
I landed on that. Yeah.
We call it our platinum sponsorship, and it's $750. Okay. All right. On ours. But we do something really unique is because I know I do one big live event every year. And one of the things I do on my sponsorship for my live event is I sell speaking spots as sponsors. So you get a speaking spot, you get a vendor table. What I do with my platinum for my virtual, if you look at it, is number one, you're labeled like as the, exclusive sponsor of the event. But you get a guaranteed speaking spot, because I know right now, there's one thing we're going to talk about is speakers. Is like we do applications for speakers. Well, you're guaranteed a speaking spot, number one. Number two, you're guaranteed a speaking spot at my November live event. And number three, you're guaranteed a vendor table at my live event. Now, if you go to my...
So that's a good deal.
Yeah, so you go to my webpage for my event, Blog and Video.com, which is signed right there. It's $1,000 for that. However, if you buy the sponsorship for my virtual event, you get $250 off and you get an extra promotion. All right. Now here's what you actually brought there on the you kind of didn't mention. Is like when you mentioned all the things that we talk about, what you get and what the demographics are of your audience. Now you've got to remember, as the growth rate was the biggest thing I seen in there, the growth rate and the fact that your sponsorship is now recorded on a virtual event. So in other words, Joe just read my sponsorship off for his event, and now he's putting this into his Independent Podcast University.
Yep.
And every time someone listens to it in Independent Podcast University, they hear my sponsorship again, and that may be forever, 2 years from now.
And always. Yep.
Yeah. That's a neat thing about that is you're covering it down the line, and you're going to get. I'm using that too. So you're following your community. That sponsorship's going to pay you back later on down the line, and that's a huge point to that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that definitely, as long as you're going to take the recording and put it somewhere for people to watch afterwards, whether it's free or paid, yeah, it definitely is something that you can think about, like when you're explaining to them. And that's, I think that's also a good, I guess that's why you brought up the growth, right? Because that's more people that are potentially going to see the sponsorship later on. This isn't a one and done kind of like, oh, we did it and it's over and like everything's in the trash and we move on to the next one. It's recorded, it's able for people to watch, and people do watch it. Like it's available for right now. The videos are all the virtual ones are available on the Facebook group for now. They're only available on YouTube until I unlist them, and then it goes into the Indie Pod. So it's unlisted in YouTube and then put into the Indie Pod University. It's available on Facebook, but that's only for right now. Once this COVID thing gets over, they'll probably all be wiped, removed from the Facebook group. Just because I want people to have an opportunity to see them and interact with them. But the thing is, they got to dig for it, right?
yeah,
So they have
yeah.
to go and like dig through the posts and through the announcement page to like go and find it, versus like, oh, it's right there and nice and categorized and easy to watch on YouTube. Yeah, so it's
I mean, some great information there. Yeah, there's a lot of value to getting sponsors, and it's all in your wording. All right. In the beginning, you're not going to have all of those things, all those stats that Joe had on his. You're starting from ground zero. And it's all in how you sell it as the I mean, yes, I'm building this. All right. This is my first of 12 I'm going to do. All right. When you start laying that out to the sponsors, they're going to be more receptive to that. I mean, I remember my first event, I had a guy speak on sponsorship. And he sponsored my event to speak on sponsorship. My very first live event. And I'm still friends with that guy till this day. And although his path now is different, but he spoke on sponsorship at my event. And he got into sponsorship because he wanted to go to Disney World. He says, so many people don't realize is there's people out there willing to pay to put their name in front of your audience. And you've got to realize there are people out there, no matter what your niche is. Joe's is podcasting, mine's online marketing. No matter what it is, there's people who are going to be willing to pay to your audience, pay to get in front of your audience. You know what I mean? I pay to be in front of Joe's. How many times? I think Joe, I paid what, 2 or 3 times I've paid for yours.
Yeah.
And that's it. And now we have a mutual sponsorship deal where we work together, but that's it. Those are stuff that's going to come along as you get into the industry more and more. Whatever your industry is, you're going to find that there is so many opportunities for you to then reach out. And, that grows in the beginning. Don't, as Joe said, don't shoot for the farm and try to make $1 million in sponsorship. Get your costs covered. So that the one thing you don't have to worry about going in is, man, I hope I can pay my hotel bill. Hey, man, I hope I can pay my online internet provider this month. You know what I mean? Cover the costs. All right. The profit, as I'll cover in future weeks, is the profit. There's other ways to make profit on this. So anything else you want to put on sponsorship before we move on?
No, I think that pretty much covers what I have. Let's see. Oh, the only other thing I would say is get a testimonial from your sponsors after the fact, so you can like, and I don't actually have any testimonials here in the sponsorship kit, but I do have some that like videos, and I've transcribed a few of them for the website and stuff like that. So it's one of those, just like one of those extra things, like having a great sponsor say like, hey, I would do this again in a heartbeat. Like this has been incredible. We got so much traction and all that. Like and it works. Sometimes having the smaller event is more powerful and more potent for the people that are sponsoring it, because they have it's a smaller pool, right, of people. Like paying 10,000 $20,000 to be at these big expos and stuff, like you're just a small fish in a really big pond, versus being a big fish in a small or smaller pond. So there's a huge amount of value there. The only other thing I said, thinking about how much how much it costs per view. like a dollar, whether it's $1 per view, $1 per person that you're bringing to the table. Sometimes if it's more of a niche, then you can go upwards like $3 to $5, $7, depending on how much it would cost them. Think about it in relation to what it would cost the sponsor to get their message in front. Like if they went to Facebook, right, to get in front of the right people, it might cost them $5 per click. And then if that actually goes somewhere, you don't know if they don't actually know sometimes if that's actually going to go
they don't know
anywhere.
what their costs are. But I
Right.
do, like when I do my sponsorships for my live events, and I don't know if you do a workbook at your live event. Do you, Joe?
No, we do a workshop that I don't think we're going to do this year at the in the backyard event, but
so we've always done workbooks at ours. So it's a
wow,
binder
that
package.
is a workbook.
They get to take
crap.
home, yeah. And yes, it is. But like we had one time where Get Vocal sponsored us. All right,
That's awesome.
But I get these are printed ads. I have them sold, guys. So that basically all that does is pays for the cost to print this. It covers my costs. And that's one of the things we're talking about, cover your costs. So now I didn't have to dish this money out of my pocket to pay. And usually I sell the back cover for one big price. In this one here, we didn't. This is actually a reprint for my trademark. But anyway, it's a whole nother story.
I know Samantha Riley, she actually when she did an event in LA, Santa Monica, she reached out to like the local like Speedy Right or whatever they call it. And they printed her books for free because they were like, she was like, hey, do you want to sponsor this event that I'm doing? Can you print these books? And they said, yeah. And they printed them for free for her.
So yeah, now one of the things that I've done on my sponsorships that I know, Joe, yours is listed, we have to email you. Mine, because of the fact that, Joe and I both know doing our own internet stuff, our own websites. I actually know how to go in and program all the buttons. And I actually have it to where you can click a button and buy the sponsorship. So like I'm sitting one night on the couch and all of a sudden an email pops up on my phone. You know what I mean? Joe Pardo just bought sponsorship at your event. Great, I got a sponsor. I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. Sponsors come through. That's where the buttons come into play. But the bad part about it is you can't screen them. So basically, you know what I mean? It could be somebody you don't know finds you, sponsors your event, and then you find out they're not reputable or something like that. And that is the downside to that. But whereas Joe's got a way where he can screen them. That's the plus side. So,
yeah, it does, but I love getting the dings of like, hey, somebody sent you money or all that stuff, or somebody paid their invoice. But I send the invoice to them. To me, it's all about relationships, right? And that's where I think when you're trying to get started, like go with where you have the relationships to begin with, and that's how sponsorships have happened. I did cold calling in the beginning. That's how we got Audio Technica. Like that's a thing that people have asked a lot. Like, how did you get them? Because they don't sponsor anything. Well, how did I get it? I literally picked up the phone and I called them, found out what the name of the person who's the marketing director, and then went on LinkedIn and then verified it, went back, called again and asked for that person and somebody else answered the phone. Guy answers and we had a 20-minute conversation. And he's like, normally I hang up on people like you, but you got my attention for some reason.
And there's things that you can do to keep people's attention and like that. I like how you did that. You actually picked up the phone. And in the beginning, some of the things you may want to do is exchange partnerships. Like you mentioned the Speedy. My web girl, Robin, she gets on my events twice a year. She does my web maintenance for me. And that's her sponsorship. She gets mentioned at all my events because she does my maintenance. Now, literally, I cost her, I think an hour and a half a month. And she gets broadcast to 50,000 people. It's tough. It's a rough sponsorship for her. But in exchange, it was a minor thing. In the beginning, I needed that. All right. In the beginning, it was more, I was more beneficial than she was. Now, because I carry that relationship, she's more beneficial and she's going to stick with me a lot longer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And she's thankful she did that relationship in the beginning. All right. And some of you guys don't realize in the beginning, you're going to get some of those because you build the right relationship and it might sway one way, but eventually you can sway it the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even like getting into the promotion side of it, right? Finding out who's going to speak at your event. It's reach out to the people you've been speaking with, that you're friends with, that you're communicating with on a regular basis. Put it in the group, in the groups that you're allowed to. Find out from the administrators. Can I post this event about this event I'm hosting? Yes, those are the types of things that, like, if you have the relationships and you build those relationships over time, like, that's going to pay off so much better. I mean, the relationships that I have with some of the sponsors that sponsor like every event, for MapCon and now Indie PodCon, like, we're at the bar and we're hanging out, like, with the CEO, or the right hand people to the CEO, that the people that actually are the front facing people. Like, those are the people that you just want to make sure you're having those really great relationships with. It pays off, like,
Yeah, you
not
never
just
know
in
what
money, but friendship too, like,
friend.
and
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, it goes both ways. So yeah, because they need you, right? They need you to supply leads for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're looking for. And when they're telling you, like, hey, we really need, like, people who are new to this, or we need people that are really into this specific part of what you're into or what your thing is about, listen and then try
Mm-hmm.
to adjust, right? Like, that's like thing that it should be like, ding, 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 ding. He's giving me all the, like, he's telling me what what he wants to hear, like, and he or she is telling you what they want to hear. So you just need to be able to listen and pick up on it, and then go and make sure that you're delivering on that, and then they'll just keep writing checks because
Yeah.
they're making money, and it's just be easy.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I want to cover a couple different areas here, Joe, that
Mhm.
I had planned out. All right. And I don't have slides,
Yeah.
and I don't have the deck like he has. I just want to do this in a speech idea with my notes. I do have notes.
I got notes that are on the screen over here.
You're on the screen. Yeah. I just didn't do mine on the screen tonight, but I mean, there's some important areas. I mean, one of the things we talk about was finding your speakers. Joe and I are really good at finding speakers for my in-person events. One of the reasons I started doing in-person events was my coach said to me, if you want to get more speaking engagements, host your own events.
Mm-hmm.
So I started hosting events to get more speaking engagements. And now, I mean, before our shutdown, the beginning of this year, I think I was on a plane every other week flying to an event. And then, like, in March, I think it was March 10th was the last one I flew home from. And the kind of the world shut down after that I couldn't get on planes and go. And I had 3 or 4 more scheduled, even up to like through May. A lot of mine were canceled, but like I have events that I'm going to speak at because I host a live event. Now, virtual events has been very, very great, as you know what I mean, getting on stages at a lot of other virtual events. You can set yourself out from the actual rest of the world by the fact that, hey, Joe, I'll let you speak at my event if you let me speak at your event. That's going to put you higher on Joe. I think Joe, what do you get, like 40 or 50 for your 20 slots now? Speaking.
Yeah. So usually, like, the minimum, I think the lowest we ever had was like 14, and then the max was like 60. So, and usually it's in the 20 plus, 20 to 30, 40 range. Yeah.
So yeah, and you've got 20 slots, I think, on yours, and my virtuals, we have less than 10 spots. So
this past one, we crammed more than 20. It was rough. Yeah. It was real rough.
But I mean, basically, here's what I've found over the years. I mean, I've, between live events, all right, and virtual events and webinars, I have hosted probably near 65, 70 events, including monthly type events. And I'm going to tell you, when you do that, in the beginning, it's great. You're going to have to like call on the phone to get speakers. But now I get everybody call me and want to speak at my events. I have more speakers call me who are not qualified to speak on a stage yet, who, like me, I personally got into speaking because Zig said, Tim, you'd be a great speaker. Just because Zig said that doesn't mean that I was going to get a speaking job, by the way. I had to practice my skill. I had to get ready. And you're going to have that as you put on virtual events. Again, in the beginning, you're going to have to reach out the phone and get speakers. As time goes on, you're going to be like Joe, where you've got 60 to 80 people applying for 20 spots. All right. And that's just part of what's going to happen. I sell my live events. I sell sponsorship spots. On my virtual events, I don't sell specials, but I only allow people who are in my community to speak. So in other words, you come and you have attended it, and I ask you to come back and speak. All right. As opposed to just, there's very rarely where you get, I let people in mine to where you're a first timer. All right. I just want to come and speak at your event. I don't even know who your audience is yet, but I want to come speak. So I become very selective on mine. You're going to have to decide over the years, all right, of how to set your own standards on speakers, because you are going to have a rush for your spots eventually. And I want you to make sure you're clear on that. The next thing I want to cover was actually, you know what I mean, putting together your schedule. And I really wanted to cover on this, Joe, tonight, because I thought about this. Is I really want you guys, if you're watching this video in the next week, before we do next week's video out to you with this information, I want you to schedule your first event. Now, it doesn't have to be in the next 4 weeks, all right? It can be in the next 6 months. But I want you to put it on the calendar, all right, and mark it, all right? Something that you can start promoting. The greatest thing that my coach ever taught me was write it down, set the date, or give yourself the deadline, and then go to work to fill it. Something about putting that deadline down for yourself that's going to make you do it. And my coach, literally, he was there for my first event, and he was there when we went to Blog and Video Con. And literally, he had me on the phone with my first coaching session when I went to his elite program. And I said, we were going to do Blog and Video Con. First call, he actually said, okay, let's look at the calendar right now and set a date. And he made me set the date on the phone with him. All right. And one of the things that Joe and I are going to offer to do is when you do your events, because you went through this class, Joe and I will come speak at your event, all right, and promote it for you. You know, but you got to set your date, and you got to probably be good. Like in my case, I said with my coach, because he came and spoke at my event, is kind of set up with Joe, and I said, hey, Joe, Tim, are you available on this day? So you can make sure we're available, and probably make sure that Joe and I don't have an event on that day, because we also try to not schedule our events to be on the same day as each other. We both work together on that. So, but schedule it now. All right. And try to schedule it out 3 to 6 months. All right. So you're not in fear, and it gives you time to try to fill it. I know everybody in the world says, well, I can put 100 people in a room. Until you do it, don't say you can do it. I have a hard time putting 100 people in a room, and I've been doing this for 8 years. It's still tough. But when you actually set the path in motion, it's going to get you speaking about it, talking about it, to where everywhere you're going to go, you're going to be excited about it. So set that date. Joe and I, we both do this for setting up our events. We do them. We use StreamYard, all right, as a model, and we broadcast ours into Facebook groups and as well as on our page. Joe, you're doing yours still for free, correct?
They are for free, though. The September 12th will be that's a paid one. So
the paid, yeah, even the virtual's paid, right? Yeah. Yeah. So
that'll be through StreamYard, though. It'll be through StreamYard going to YouTube, to an unlisted YouTube live stream. So then I'll send that link out to the people who have paid for the live stream and the people who have paid for the in-person, event, just in case they can't make it. And yeah, so that way I could set up a Facebook group for it, but then it's just I had to manually add a bunch of more, a bunch of people and stuff, and I'm hoping to sell a couple hundred tickets live stream. So I would say at least 100, like at the bare minimum. That's what I'm thinking. So
you could do it too, Joe. All right, and this is the way you guys can do it: is the YouTube. Once you create the YouTube link with StreamYard, you can grab the copy from grab the link from YouTube and put that on a web page, and then make it hidden, so only know the domain name, and you can have it broadcast.
But then they won't have access to the chat. So what I'll probably do
downside
is
to that.
Pretty links I'll take that YouTube link, put it in the pretty link, so I could just do indiepodcasters.com/ like icon backyard or icon 6 I don't know, live stream or something. So it's just something that's like not obvious to like type in and then send that out.
I mean,
that way,
in the beginning,
if something goes wrong with that stream, I can change the link. I don't have to send out another email.
Yeah. So, and that's pretty links is something that Joe Joe taught me about that. I mean, it is a great tool to use to get that, so you can get it out And it's a way to code it. And I know the first thing you're going to start thinking about, man, I don't want people to get in for free, if I charge for free. Guys, to the hackers out there, it's probably going to happen. All right. But there's ways to do unlisted and stuff, which we'll probably cover in another video. But there's ways to do it and set it up so people can't find it unless you send them directly to it, even with free on YouTube. So, so I'd set the date charging, but Joe he does his virtual ones for free. I charge for mine, but I charge $20 to join a membership. All right. And that membership, $20, gets you into the Facebook group where they're broadcast. And for one-time fee, you get in, you're able to attend all of our virtual events. And then I even said that I will put some of the recordings from our live events there. Select recordings is I think how I word it. Select recordings from our live events will be put in the Facebook group. So that makes the value of joining the $20, not just like I'm buying a $20 ticket to attend this one event. I'm spending $20 to join a membership that I get tons of events. So, I mean, I oversold it, but then I also used it as a chance to raise money for our charity, which is, I'm sure, something we'll cover in future things is we always do a charity giving back to the community when we do an event. And that's what I do. And $10 of every $20 ticket goes to whatever the charity is that month. And we have dished out, just from ticket sales, it was like $500 for our first event we did virtual. Our second was over $100 of our money was just from ticket sales alone. All right. $10 of every ticket went to that charity. And when I'm doing that, I reach out to the charity and say, hey, I'm raising money for you. I'm letting you know. And I tell them what I'm doing. Both charities they reached back out to me and went, oh, yes. What do you need from us? Anything you need from us, let us know. Because when they hear you're raising money for them, they're going to want to do that. And that's just how I chose to do it. You're going to have to choose your own model. All right. And there is no wrong model. I'll be honest, there's not a wrong model. If you want to do it free like Joe, or if you want to do it like me, there is no wrong model. You can be successful either way. The last thing I want to talk about here is promotion. There are certain things that I've learned to do over the years. Is I've learned how to make sales pages. And I've learned how to make simplistic sales pages. Now, my brand is called Simple Easy Marketing, and I put everything simple and easy, all right, so that the client or customer has an easy buy process. And that's why I make the pages so simple and easy. And some of you who've gotten this course may have gone through, like, even the sales page I created was nothing more than a video. And I basically said, click the link down below if you wanted it. And the link below actually went over to Joe's page for them to pay. All right. It wasn't even on my page, but I was able to set that link up and do a simple page. Create a sales form and a sales page. Now, in the beginning, I started doing things like Eventbrite. Yes, if that's what you have to do, it's great, but Eventbrite does not get you their email address. One of the key things you want for them to getting a ticket, whether you're giving them a free ticket or you're selling them a $20 ticket, I'm doing it to build my email list. In other words, and of all the tickets I've sold, even after the event, I've had only like 2 people opt out of that email list. All right. Because they know every month that as soon as I'm done with that event, I'm going to start emailing them about the next month's event. And I'm going to say, hey, listen, would you like me to promote you? Can you speak? So I build value into that email list. The biggest value you have in creating anything online is what I teach, online marketing, is community. Joe has a great community. It's what he just got done showing you, all those things. That's his community. Yep. That's his community, guys. And that's the biggest thing in your email list is your community. And you're going to have to feed them. You want to build an email list and start doing that by using your event to build it. Even if it's, hey, you can get a free ticket. Just give me your name and email address. And you'll find that that is the greatest way to do it. Email is, yes, you're not going to have, email is not the golden god like it was years ago. Yeah. But you need to have as many connections or points of connections to potential attendees to your event as you possibly can. Yes, you need them to be connected on a Facebook group. Yes, you need them to be connected to you on YouTube. Yes, I mean, all of these areas, the more places you're connected to them, the more dots you're connected to them, the easier it is for you to keep that relationship going and make them want to attend the next event you do. So that was my biggest thing on promotion. I actually, every event I do a Facebook event. And then I make it so that they've got to go through the ticket buying process with a link. But I make a Facebook event. Why? I've got 5,000 Facebook friends. And I have 3 Facebook pages that come up to just under 3,500 people following me. So it's about 8,500 people right there on Facebook. And it is my most engaged audience. So why not use your most engaged audience to actually promote your event? Now, when I did my first live event, I realized what the cost was to run it was like $200. That's what it cost me for the event, cost me for snacks and things for the thing. Once I sold $200 in tickets for like $25 a piece, I did anything and everything I could to fill the seats. Once my costs were covered, now I'm making deals. Okay, Joe, yeah, you want to come to my event? I'll tell you what, give me $10 and you can come. And I mean, I didn't care what they paid me, because it was the fact that my costs were covered. I make the money on my events after promoting is I make my monies on what I sell at the event. Joe, Joe sold into this course at his event. He sells into many other courses you do.
Yeah.
I sell into my coaching programs. It's what I do. That's where your money's made. And I'm sure we'll cover that. But the key things that you got to learn is once you set it up, you set it up right away. You have something now to be talking about. Hey, I'm doing a virtual event. All right. Joe and Tim had me set up my virtual event. It's October, blah, 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 blah. All right. You start talking about it and you're actually able out there to promote it. As soon as you got your costs covered, you're going to be excited to go out and keep promoting it. But you set it up and now you go out and promote it. Send an email out to everybody in your list. Do a press release onto it. Joe, you got great things with the press release.
I did one press release, but the way I did it was I put my the link that I put for it was indiepodcon.com/virtual. So that's still the link to this day to get all the virtual, to get to the next virtual conference. So that's a lot of SEO juice going right back to one page that's still active, constantly being updated, on a weekly basis today. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it gives you that opportunity. I moved my mic and now it does not want to sit. And now I just keep playing with it here. So that's how I set it up intentionally, so that the press release I did was kind of generic, because the first conference that we did was it was a podcasting conference, like virtual conference, but now it's all these niched ones that are in podcasting that I'm doing. So it just it's kind of built on itself. So there's always something there for somebody to find and join in on.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's it. I mean, the press release was huge, by all means, and you can have someone write your press release using like Fiverr.
I could do more press releases, and I've thought about it, but so for my press release probably cost me about $250 to do or so. I didn't write it because I tried to write it, and basically my coach / friend was like, "No, this is terrible. Let me rewrite this for you. let me rewrite this for you."
Well, so I paid the guy in Fiverr to write it. I think $25 to write it, and then my coach and I went over and changed it.
Oh yeah.
And then I paid $300 to a service to get it out.
Yeah. So right. So I paid $200, I think, to get it out, and I was excited. And like I said, I'm still getting repercussions from it, because I didn't just use like, oh, this is the 2020 event, or like the March 29th 2020 event specifically. It's kind of generic. So So it definitely helped, and for September's event, I'll be doing a press release for sure, because I think we're gonna get some local press here that want to be interested in, like, hey, we had this event, we were hosting in Atlantic City, and now we're in Joe's backyard. Like, how cool is that, right?
We're moving on up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we are moving up.
But no, I mean, really, it's good stuff that you guys on this. All right. So, I mean, go through this. All right. Go through the checklist of what Joe gave you, what I gave you tonight. All right. And, I mean, we will have another lesson for you guys next week, as well as, next week we'll be sitting down with you on the master call so that you can actually get your questions answered. All right. Anything else you want to close with tonight?
Schedule building is the next class. So I'm looking forward to that one. No, I think I'm good. I schedule your date and, start figuring out what your media kit's going to look like, what you're going to offer, how much you're going to, write down names of companies that you want to reach out to, and then start doing some research. If you don't have the things, phone calls are a thing. You can call people, email people, and yeah, and follow up, right? The biggest thing I use for follow up is Boomerang. And if you use Gmail, you can use this plugin called Boomerang. It's free, sort of. You can get some emails for free, but if you're serious about it, I mean, I think I pay $100 some a year for it, so that every email that I send out, it pops back up in my inbox if people don't open it or respond to it after so many days that I set. So it helps me stay super focused and like getting back to people, because I'm not at that level yet where I could just be like, it's your problem, not my problem. I got my millions. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't get back to me. So it's just one of those things to keep in mind at all times, that you want to do, definitely do the follow up, and stay on top of people, because you're not their number one priority.
Yeah. Your event is your priority. All right. And you're going to have to follow up with everybody you want to make your priority work. And that's it. You can remember that. It's always up to you. You're the final say in making your event great.
Yep, absolutely. So as I've been saying lately, I'd like to sign off with lead with love and lead your community with it. This I gotta move my mic
and fix your microphone.
Yeah, right. It just keeps it's like a bad like mic person. Oh my god, have you seen that Kevin James video?
Yes, I have.
Yes, it's hilarious. It's like having him here standing over me. Yeah. So lead with love, and I'll see you all next week.
See you next week, guys. Oops. I didn't mean to do that, but I meant to pause the recording.